Okay. Hello, girls. How are you?
Very good. How are
Doing
you?
well.
Very
How are
good.
you?
This is Zoom Table Talk with Sharon, and we're going to talk today about the coronavirus and going back to school and this whole thing. How do you feel about it? And what do you think is good about it? What you don't think is good about it? What you think is bad about it? I just want to hear your expertise in this area. Well, first of all, I want you to introduce yourselves. Could you please? We'll start with you, Tammy.
Okay. Hi, I am Tammy Carter, and I live in Ontario, Canada, even though I was born and raised in Pennsylvania and educated at Indiana University in Pennsylvania with Sharon.
Yeah.
We went to the same school, and I have been in Canada for a long time, since around 1985, and I've been teaching
Have you been
for
there that
30
long?
plus years. I know.
Mhm.
I've been teaching for 30 plus years
Okay.
in the elementary panel, predominantly in special education.
Okay.
And I love it, and I miss those kids so much. I love teaching them and being with them, and it's really difficult when you can't be with them.
Okay. Okay. I bet. Tracy McGee.
Hi, I'm Tracy McGee. I'm doing good. How are you?
Very well.
Good. And I am also an educator, and I have a private company called the TJEC Educational Consulting Group.
Okay.
And what we do is we provide educational services for churches, school districts, and for licensed early childhood programs.
Okay.
And so some of our primary programs are providing training
Okay.
for teachers as well as for parents.
Okay.
And we also do employment placement. So those who go through our training program are able to become employed.
Okay.
And so I have been in education now for just over 30 years.
Okay.
And our company is just over 20 years old.
Okay. 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 Wow, that's exciting. So I have some good people, some good educators to help us out here.
Yes.
It's good.
for sure.
So Tammy, I'm gonna address you mainly, even though you do special ed and some regular education. I'm gonna keep you in line with the special ed more. Of course, you can answer the other questions. Okay. So
Great.
Tracy, I'm gonna start with you.
Okay.
And what are the benefits of keeping children home during the coronavirus pandemic? Tracy, what do you think the benefits are in that?
I think that if we follow the science, some of what we found is that the children who are contracting the coronavirus, because not as many children are contracting the virus, but those who are, it's primarily coming from them getting it from people that they're around. So the people in their very own homes.
Okay.
And so there's a case study that was going on in Japan,
Okay.
where an infant was able to contract the virus from his mother and or grandmother.
Okay.
The grandmother passed away, and the mother has since gotten better. But it was because of the connection that the infant had to the people who were around.
Okay.
And so what I'm looking at is, if most of the children who are getting the virus are getting it in their home from people who have the virus, if we put them in a school setting and they are around other people who are asymptomatic,
right,
or have not yet begun to show their symptoms,
okay,
then you'll have more children
right,
who have the virus. Or you could have a child whose parent works at a nursing home. And because their parent works at the nursing home, the parent may contract the virus, and then her children may contract the virus, bring the virus to the school. Next thing you know, the teacher has the virus, other children in the class have the virus, before you even have a chance.
Right, right.
It's to call the health department. And so the exposure is going to be so much greater for our children if we put them in these settings with 20 or 30 children.
Right.
And
Tracy,
so
right there.
home.
Tracy, pause right there for a minute. Either one of you can answer this question. What are they going to do when one of the kids or one of the teachers contract the disease? What are they going to do? Do a 14-day shutdown? I mean, how are they going to handle that? How's that going to be handled?
Right. And can they get a supply teacher to come in off the cuff?
Right.
Like, it's just, I don't know how they're going to do all that, because that teacher would definitely have to be quarantined. And then are those kids going to have to be quarantined?
Right.
So then what?
Right. How is that going to be handled? That seems difficult to me.
In Georgia and in other states, there are some situations where they have a plan in place so that if the teacher contracts the virus, the health department is then contacted. There's a deep cleaning that goes on in the school. So the school does have to be closed down for that period of time.
Right.
And every school district is responsible to have their own plan for what happens if. I know Sharon was in early childhood education.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And if you recall years ago, in the spring, one of the most challenging times, but sometimes fun times for teachers, was when the chickenpox came around.
Right.
Because every classroom had a period of time where there weren't as many children in the classroom because everybody got the chickenpox before the vaccine came.
Right.
And so it's that same type of thing, only now we're dealing with something much deadlier.
That can kill you.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so the plans are school district based. They're not state-based. They're not nation-based. Every school district has to come up with their own plan.
Okay.
Right.
Do you like this idea? Do you guys like this idea that they're doing this?
Well, what happened? We just got a memo sent from the director of education for our board, and they said, we want to figure out how to be back in 5 days a week, face-to-face brick and mortar school. We need to figure out how we can do it. And I think it's really a challenge. I did hear a couple things that were sounding like they were moving toward the right direction. We're like years ago, we always had health people in the school, like nurses, and had those type of advantages, which we do not have nurses in our schools here now. Right. But they're talking about having public health involved and nurses in the school, trying to make the school like a safe place secondary to home, and doing a lot of screenings. But just like Tracy said, these kids are going to bring it in from home, because it's going to come from a parent who's working with elderly or somebody who's working in a hospital. It's going to be brought in, and really the teacher becomes a frontline worker also in this situation. And I really don't know, even though they're thinking, oh, well, we can do a hybrid where we can do some remote learning, some face-to-face, or we can do 2 days, 3 days, and then the next way, 3 days, 2 days, splitting up the classes. Any way you go, there's going to be a lot of challenges. And I don't think anybody has the answers. I don't think that they were prepared enough to get plans in place, because, a lot of schools in the States go back in August. Ours doesn't start till September, but there's a lot of stuff to do before school starts. So, I don't know how ready we're going to be.
Ladies, what are they saying? Are they going back with masks? Are the kids wearing masks and the teacher wearing masks? And my question with that is, Tammy, you work with special ed kids too. What are the chances of them keeping the mask on? So
and that's one of the questions, is like the obstacles that especially are going to face special needs students. A lot of kids anyhow may have difficulty wearing a mask, but most of them can understand. Mom and dad say, look, mommy says we have to wear a mask to protect us, and we have to, and they generally can understand. But a lot of our special needs students, and especially those under the autism spectrum, who have sensitivity to pressure, to touch, are very sensitive, those kids can't stand a mask on their face, and we have kids who have difficulty with their own hygiene or coughing or bodily fluid in that way, that there's just so much potential for contagion. And I don't know how you can protect them. And you would have an educator with them, whether it's a wraparound or an educational assistant that is with a special needs student, but they can't be out of their sight.
Right.
You know, because you're going to have to be hand washing routines and bathroom routines and eating routines and just all of, they're not going to be able to social distance themselves. You know,
Right.
they don't understand all that. I mean, I'm speaking generally,
Right.
but in the United States right now, I just looked up the National Center for Education Statistics, over 7 million students between the ages of 3 and 21 in the United States. And this was 2018 and 2019. So over 7 million, or 14% of the students receive special education.
Wow.
And that's a lot. And
Mm-hmm.
out of those, 33%, so a third of the special needs students are learning disabled, which if you have a learning disability, you have to have average to above average intelligence, but then you just have areas that you're not able to produce, or you're not able to demonstrate your learning, or maybe your nonverbal is higher than your verbal, or vice versa. Mm-hmm. So a lot of them are learning disabled, which they understand, you know, a lot, but 11% of those special education students are students under the ASD umbrella. Mm-hmm. And, you know, they have issues themselves with sound and noise and hypersensitivity, and trying to get them to wear a mask is just, it causes behaviors. And, you know, even though really the best type of learning for these students is being in a classroom setting because of the rules, the routines, the expectations, the supports, the rewards, the motivation, you know, just being able to fulfill their IEP, their individual education plan. Being in school is much better than a parent having to be at home and try to be.
I would say that too, Tammy. I would say, I think that, and I had this conversation with a mother who is also a teacher, but my sense here is, if the kids are dead, if they're dying, if they're, I mean, what is the benefit? What is the benefit? And I was going to ask you that, Tracy, because one of your questions is, what are some tips that will benefit parents as they continue to work at home? Can you motivate parents who can work at home? I mean, I was an educator, and this was years ago when homeschooling was just coming out to be popular. I thought I would make my son crazy if I homeschooled him, and I was an educator. So I couldn't do it. I mean, I just had to be honest and say I couldn't do it, because if another student couldn't get the sound of the letter I for apple, it was like, okay, let me work with you. If my son couldn't get it, inside of me was like, why can't you get that?
Right.
So, you know, I'm just being honest here. So how could you motivate? What would you say or do to encourage parents who can do it? Because all parents can't stay at home, I understand that. But if they can say, how would you motivate, or would you encourage them to stay home?
I think there are a couple of things with the parents who have talked to me about what do I do. The first thing is to make sure that your child is engaged with their teacher, because most of the teachers are doing Zoom classes, or they're doing Microsoft Teams, things like that on the devices that the children are using, either provided by the school districts or what they have at home.
Right.
And so make sure that if your teacher says, okay, we're going to have class from 9 until 10:30, that your child is not in the bed or watching cartoons, but they're with their teacher and they're with the other students in their class. They're seeing them, they're engaging with them, and they're feeling comfortable that my teacher is telling me, this is how I add these two numbers, or this is a tip on working with this multiplication table. And if the parent doesn't have an understanding of how to do this new math, then sit in class with your child. Listen to the tips that the teachers are giving. If you know your child needed extra support in the fall of last year before the pandemic came along, then make sure that they have an online tutor. Make sure that they're getting that additional support. If you don't have the patience, then you can hire an online person to engage with your children. And so you have to use the resources that are out there and not just give up. You have to have a schedule. When your children go to school, there's a schedule. You get up at a certain time, you get dressed, you have your breakfast. At a certain time, it is time to begin learning. Then there is a time for lunch. After that time for lunch has taken place, then there is a time for additional learning. There's exercise time. So you may just break out and have a dance party in the middle of the day so that they can get some of that energy out. You may go outside into the yard in between reading and math so that you can toss the ball around for a while. Everything that your child would do at school, now you are expected to do it. This is just one of those situations where life has thrown us a curveball. And as a parent, you have to step up. You don't get a choice to say that I don't want to be bothered. You have to find out what is going to make your child want to come to your class and use that teacher.
Right.
Call that teacher, write that teacher, email that teacher, tell them I'm pulling my hair out. What can I do with my child? Because
so are these helps free? Do parents have to pay for these?
If you get a tutor, if you got a tutor last year, you would have to pay for it. If you get a tutor this year, you have to pay for it. But the teachers are on payroll. And so when you contact your child's teacher, they're already being paid. So you don't have to pay them.
Yeah. Okay.
But here's the difference between last year and this year. Last year, your child's teacher had them for most of the school year.
Right.
So they knew your child. This year, the teachers are coming into a situation where they don't know your child. They don't know if they'll sit still. They don't know what their ups and their downs are. They don't know what will make them cry. They have no idea. And so it's going to be a greater challenge.
Right.
When this school year starts.
So it sounds like a little bit like parents are going to have to, and Tammy, you can join in with this, parents are going to sort of have to up their game. Like, you know, the participation with the child, because I heard a lot of parents, they were complaining about their kids going back to school. And I'm hearing a little bit of now you're learning who your child is. When you were complaining about that child to the teacher as though it was the teacher's fault, and now you're dealing with that child and you rather send them back to the school, but now you have to deal with that thing you made. You know what I mean? And so it's a whole different, I mean, it's the same thing even with the church people. I have this conversation because I have some spiritual daughters who were very active in the church, and now they can't do that. But now they're finding out they can't fill that void with activity, and I'm really lonely. And so now you have to fill it with something else. And now it's a relationship with God. That's a little different. But this is the same. It's a little different in that these are parents who have to deal with their kids, right? Because I'm hearing you saying activity, you can do this. That sounds like a schedule. And that sounds like if a child is saying, I don't want to do that. I'm not, you know. Now you have a parent who has to confront it. And you can't send them to the office. The teacher's not sending them to the office now. You're the office and the teacher and everything.
Right. But like you said about homeschooling, I've been in education and I started my kids out being homeschooled, but I went to school, I went to teach, but my husband was home during the day. So I said, this is what the kids have to do. So we started, my daughter was not bad with it. We had a little girl who was living in Canada. She didn't have her paperwork yet. She was from St. Vincent. So we homeschooled her at the same time. And they did pretty good because they were the same age and they worked together. And I planned their day for them, what they had to do. And my husband had to implement it. But then when Josh came, my son, trying to get him to start learning his letters, no matter what you tried with him, I would be like,
I know.
Yeah, that's like, he's like, Mom, are you trying to get me to read again? I don't want to, you know. And I was like, here I am, an educator, And my kids love me at school, but it's hard teaching
Right.
your own kids, and I'm an educator.
Right.
So you put the parents in this role now that not only are you a mom, and not only is a mom is a home engineer, and she's a chef, and she's a nurse, and she's she's got all these hats to wear, and now we want you to educate your kids too. Some people love it and want to do it, and you and I and Tracy, we have the ability, and we have the drive that we would definitely do that. But some just don't have those tools in their toolkit. They can't do it. And that leads to another question. I don't know that we were talking about for me with the special needs kids. That the special needs students really have some real challenges when it comes to remote learning, because first of all, with the remote learning with the special needs students, they don't understand school at home. They don't get that. They're at home and they have their routines for home, and all of a sudden you're like, no, but now you have to do school at home. So that's an issue right there, trying to get them to understand that. Secondly, I've had parents that I've talked to that, they have more than one child, maybe one or two are challenged or special needs or on the spectrum or behaviors, or maybe they only have, maybe they just have 4 kids or whatever, but then they have to share resources, whether they're on an iPad or a Chromebook or, a laptop, and they have to share that computer. And a lot of our families where I live, they don't always have the means to have up-to-date technology. We had to provide so many computers. We had to get, our school board had to make sure that there was a hotspot nearby that the students could tap into, because some didn't have internet. And so technical issues were a big thing. And then if you have a student who is, has special needs and has any type of physical challenges that can't access computer, like there's just so many things just with technology. But
so
then
Tammy, the schools that are near you, are they Title I schools?
Well, I work for the separate school board. And what that is just, it is funded by the government, but only when parents designate their taxes to go to the separate school board, and generally it's Catholic. But so parents can designate their taxes to go to that, so then we get that money. But most of the money from the government goes to fund the public board. So we don't have the same amount of funding, but we still have public funding and government funding, but not the same. So sometimes our kids, don't have all the things that they could have, but it's such a challenge, and I do feel bad for the parents who are struggling to just get the kid go on the computer. No, I'm not going on, and then they have behavior issues besides their special needs. It's a hard thing, because our special needs kids are used to routines and expectations and structure. And even though they have routines at home, it's not the same. They know what boundaries there are at school and what you can and can't do. But now you have to do school at home, but you're tired. You want to lay down. It's very difficult for them to understand the remote learning and being able to access it. For some, just accessing it is difficulty, but for the others, not having the same, even the motivators, the rewards built in. So
now that we have a shift and things are different, even though it's easier the other way, we have to shift, right?
Right. Absolutely. Like we're going to have to, if school is going to be school as we knew it, to be a brick and mortar building, but to be a brick and mortar building that they go to and are physically with other kids, there's going to be a lot of changes, and there's going to have to be a lot more support. Like you're not going to be able to have one teacher even with 10, 15 kids, because how are you going to keep them social distance? How are you going to keep them wearing masks? How are you going to check that, this kid has a fever? Well, now do they have the virus? Like you're going to need to have the health nurses. You're going to need to have, screening and temperatures taken. It's just, I don't know what it's going to look like, but it's not going to be the same. That's for sure.
Right. Tracy, you think this is possible? Do you think this is all
the children to return to school?
Yeah.
I think that I'm pleased that so many school districts are not going to be returning to school. Every day there are school districts that are reversing what they initially said because where they first felt like, oh, we can handle this, every day our numbers are surpassing the highest numbers.
Right.
For example, yesterday was the most difficult day that the United States has had in terms of the number of people who have contracted the coronavirus.
Right.
It's the first time that we've surpassed this more than 70,000 people in one day.
Wow.
And so there are school districts that are now getting it. And even though there are politicians who are saying, oh no, they must go to school, people are realizing that they will lose teachers, they will lose children, if they force people not to be able to socially distance themselves. And so it's really a challenge right now, but the fact that people are now listening to the science, I think that's what the difference is going to be. Not listen to the money, but listen to the science.
Sure.
Hey, Tammy, does Betsy DeVos, does that affect you in Canada? The Secretary of?
No, we're under a different.
Under a different
reputation, and the politicians, But see, we in Ontario, we are just starting to open our restaurants like this today and this week. Like our gyms are starting to open. The fitness gyms are going to be opening in a couple days. Like we are behind as far as we've taken it a lot slower, and so it's just we haven't had the opportunity to be like there's just has not been the opening to be around a lot of people where I know in the States you've opened some things up a lot quicker than we did. So
that's a benefit.
And so right
well,
now
it's interesting because
I don't see how we can
Ireland
be ready to go back to school. Go ahead, Tracy.
Ireland did the same thing. They were very slow, and they started opening up and found out they had to shut right back down. Because as soon as people came together, then the virus started spreading again. And so that's what my biggest concern is, where our children and our educators are concerned.
Tracy, I have a question. Since I noticed, I'm sorry, Tammy, go ahead.
I was just going to say, did your parents have to take surveys? I know up here,
yes,
the parents were given surveys, and I was just asking a couple parents I know and different things, and for the most part, a lot of the parents do not want to send their kids, but parents who are just struggling at home, they are just like, please, I just want my kids, and those are oftentimes they don't have the means to understand all that's going on, or maybe they don't have the finances to be able to be at home with their kids. And, but for the most part, the parents do not want to send them back unless they're having too much trouble at home with them. But I don't know what it's going to look like. I know that the government wants us to try to get them back. I think it's too early. I really do.
Why do you think the government is pushing that so much? Both of you. Why do you think that? I have my opinions, but why do you think?
That they're thinking about, get these parents that need to be back to work, get the economy going, it always comes down to money. Doesn't it always?
I agree with you.
That
if you follow the money, that's where
I feel like I feel like honestly, our younger children, yes, I mean, school is a benefit for them. We all believe in education and want the best for our kids, but education or death. That's a hard one. What do you want?
It's not
exactly. Keep your kids at home. Keep your kids at home. They will catch up.
Tracy, I see you laughing.
Because
the kids that are in high school, they have their own independence. They can do the classes on their own online. So our younger kids that they're pushing to get back, it's just,
there was this little girl, it was this commercial we laugh about, and you may have seen it, Tracy's down here in Georgia, and it's this cute little girl. She looks to be about 4 years old, and she's sitting on a bench at a counter, and she's saying, I just want to go back to school. She's not school because she's not in school yet. I just want to go to my favorite restaurant. I can't stay. Her vocabulary for her age is pretty intense, I think. And she said, and she's so cute. She said, I don't know what to do. I just need to get out of here. I just need to go back to being with my best friend. And she's going on and on and on. And I laughed when I saw that. But then when I was done watching her, I was thinking, she is 4 years old. And I know when I used to teach preschool, I used to say to the mothers, whatever your child is doing it for, you have to acknowledge what it is. And the reason I want you to acknowledge it is because take that 4 and put a 1 on it. Because that behavior is going to manifest and it's going to grow. It's going to be, one day it's going to be 14, and then it's going to be 24, and then it's going to be 34. And when it's 34, nobody wants to take your precious little child and marry it or do anything with it because it was precious to you, but it's not cute at 34. So at 4 years old, if that was my son, even if I was laughing at it because it was some other child, I thought it was my job to cause him, if I saw that attitude, to practice being content. It's not okay. Your happiness is not in going to your favorite restaurant. I'm just going to die if I don't get a chance to go. I mean, now the parents got to deal with that. It's not cute because she can't go to her favorite restaurant. Even though I'm laughing because she's on TV and I'm on the internet and I'm laughing about it, but that's not a behavior that's conducive to life.
Well, I think
she froze. Tracy, I want you back. Where are you?
Yeah, I didn't see Tracy.
Yeah.
It's tough,
they're mimicking it.
Come back here. There you go. You froze for a minute. Back. Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. Go ahead.
I was saying that one of the things to go along with what you were saying is that the children are also mimicking what they're hearing the adults in their lives say.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep. So,
and
I mean,
so everybody needs to be content.
Yes.
At this point in the game.
Yes. It's either be content or die. I mean, like you were saying, it's not really, that's not a thin line. That's a big line. Choose life or death.
Yeah.
Wow. So what do you feel like, and you know who Betsy DeVos, am I saying DeVos or DeVos? Tracy, is it Betsy DeVos? I just call her Betsy. But Betsy DeVos,
yes, let's call her Dr. Betsy.
Yeah. What do you think? I saw something in the New York Times, I think it was yesterday or the day before yesterday, and it said Betsy DeVos funnels corona's relief funds to favor private and religious schools.
I have not read the article.
Yeah.
And so I can't really speak intelligently about it.
Just you knowing her, how do you feel about how she's dealing with? I have my opinion.
I've followed her since she's become the Secretary of Education. I know nothing about her beliefs or her stances. I don't know anything about this political situation.
Okay.
Where it comes to the lives of our children.
Okay.
And so I probably should do better in that area, but
no, you're good.
Literally,
thank you for being honest.
Yeah, I'm taking what the politicians say, doing the opposite of it so that we can live a little longer.
Yeah, okay. Right.
You know?
And I say that because I heard this conversation last night talking about nitro politics. And you may have heard this term, I don't know, have you nitro politics, where it is basically some people's lives are worth more than others. And so, because I was thinking, if I bet you, and I'm just going to say this hypothetically, if Betsy had kids who were in school, they were in private school, I'm sure, because of who she is, but she would, if they weren't in private school, they would be at home and they would have everything they need to succeed at home. So my question is, in schools that are not Title I schools, some of the kids, because I'm hearing on the news and I'm hearing on the air, don't have laptops, don't have computers and things to work from home. And so
you're saying if it's not a Title I school, how will they get the resources?
Yeah, how would they function if they don't? Because I'm hearing some parents say that their kids have to share laptops because they don't have money to have each child to have. So how do you So how do we handle that? Or can our school system or can our government, would it be a good thing for them to supply laptops to kids who can't afford it, so if they choose to stay at home? Because I'm telling you, I would do what I have to do. If my child was young, I would not send him back into that school. I would not. I can say that.
I would not.
Well, the most school districts are allowing children to sign out Chromebooks. And so, again, back to scheduling. If you have 3 children and you have 1 Chromebook, you need to schedule it out. And you need to talk to teachers and let them know, well, my child may not be able to come to class from 9 until 9:30 because the other child is in class from 9 until 10. So they won't get there until maybe 10 o'clock. Or at home, I'm saying, listen, you're going to use the Chromebook from this time until that time.
Right.
You're going to use the Chromebook from this time until this time. And you just have to do what you have to do. I mean, there are some programs that you can download on your phone. I know my nephews, they were using their mother's phone before they got their Chromebooks from their school district. And they were getting their assignments from their mother's iPhone. And then they were doing their homework on paper. Transferring the information back to the iPhone and turning it into school. And so there are enough opportunities for technology to be used during this time, but the parents, again, they have to determine that this is important enough to plan it out ahead of time.
Tracy, you are not allowing the parents to shake their responsibility. I love it.
Absolutely not. You're the parent, and it is your responsibility to make sure that your children do not fail in this pandemic.
That's right.
Now, as educators, we should help them, but these are your children. And do you want your children to be 2 years behind because you decided that you did not want to do this?
True. Of course, on the other hand,
I'm sorry, go ahead, Tammy.
I was just saying the special needs kids, here's where an issue is too. A lot of our special needs kids, I mean, they'll like to go on the computer for all the fun and games of the computer, but they're learning, a lot of their learning is hands-on. Or, you know, modeling and repeating it and redoing it, you know. It's almost like sometimes, you know how you have like a speech pathologist or a speech teacher come to the house to, or a physical therapist come to the house to work with the person? You almost would need to have a special education teacher going into the house, working on some tasks with the student, hands-on, demonstrating it, modeling it for the parents. And then, you know, through the week, the child works on that, you know.
Is that safe with the mask? Is that safe?
I know, I don't know. I'm just saying that it's almost like maybe money needs to be put into that type of situation. But I don't know how that, you know.
But they can do that remotely also, can't they, Tammy?
What was that?
They can also do that remotely, can't they? Where the teacher can have a session with the parent.
Yes, and it is true, but it's just like I have a lot of autistic kids in my, actually not my nieces and nephews. All of my sisters' kids have like a child on the autism spectrum. It's crazy. So my nieces and nephews, their kids have children on the spectrum. And some are, you know, very, very high on the spectrum, and others aren't. And like my niece I was talking to today, her youngest, who's very, very needy, and he's turning 4, getting ready to go to kindergarten. She's like, he just needs so much one-on-one, and it's hands-on. Like he needs somebody around him, like constantly. He's a danger to himself just because he can climb anything. He can get out of anything. You know, so some of these kids, they need a hand-over-hand modeling to do it. And I know like the parents do that, but then when they have other kids, it's just difficult. I guess it's because I have I guess I see the need in the special need area, especially that parents can't always do it. I agree, like, you know what, you have these kids, you need to step up to the plate. They're your responsibility. You need to, okay, Johnny, you need to sit down at the computer and it's your time to do your schoolwork. Absolutely. But when you have kids that have these special needs,
right,
it just doesn't work sometimes like that,
And I'm not really trying to be difficult for the parents, but Tammy, would you feel safe just going into one parent's home after another?
Right.
Where their families are there and you don't know if they've social distanced and you don't know if they've been wearing masks. You don't know if they've been washing their hands. Are you comfortable putting your life in the hands of families?
Right, that's true.
Right, and that's really true because some people don't take concern with it. They don't even believe it, so they won't do the precautions, like you said. And then those kids come to school and...
Or you go into their home and then you bring this back to your home.
Right.
Right.
And so just like, I feel like if you're going to go into the home, the children might as well come to school.
Right. Right, that's true.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I guess I feel like, I guess the person going in could be more protective of themselves and be careful than when you have a bombard of kids coming into your classroom. That's kind of either way it's not safe. It's not the best situation either way.
So I have this question. This is for both of you, and Tracy, this was a question you wrote. How do we handle this time with fear with the kids? Because of course they're hearing stuff on the news. Of course you can't turn on the news and not hear about statistics of people dying, And so if kids are hearing, how do you help them in this? Or how are we helping ourselves in this, I should say, because if the parents aren't helping themselves, they're not helping their kids, of course. But what's the best way to teach a child not to move in fear during this time?
Right. That's a tricky situation. Fear's there, no matter which way you turn, there's a lot of fear there. I think for kids, the simplest way that you can explain some things, like I've seen some kids that even made, a poster up of wash your hands, and they would draw like a germ as the, COVID as a little monster, or try to keep it away. You need to wear a mask. You need to, and make it as simple terms as you can without leaning on the death tolls and the, trying to teach them as much with positivity as you can, but letting them know that, we do these things so that we can live and so that our parents and our grandparents are healthy. We have to do it not just for ourselves, but for them. But the fear, that's the part where you pray that God comes in and you help him to deal with the fear, Fear's a really prevalent thing, and I don't know how to keep that from their heads, especially when they hear things. I try to protect them as much as I can, but really
what would you say, Tracy?
I think that
that's good.
In some communities, children have already become accustomed to dealing with illness and dealing with death, whether it's through violence or through people having other types of illnesses. And so I think that the same way we deal with, you lost your grandfather to diabetes, or your grandmother had a heart attack and passed away, there are steps that we take to teach children how to deal with those steps of grief and fear of impending death, because again, the adults around them are going through their own thing and nobody's paying attention to what the children are seeing or feeling. As educators, you're that person that kind of steps up and says, well, how are you feeling? And for me, this is something that is not happening. Every adult in the world is making decisions for children, and nobody's saying to the children, well, how do you feel? And I put that question on my list yesterday because I was just talking to my nephews who tell me how you feel about the coronavirus, because we're looking at doing a town hall for elementary school children. And You know, and they
It's
were
going to be a
talking
virtual
about,
town hall, right?
it'll be, yes,
Okay,
it'll be a
right,
virtual town hall.
Okay. Okay.
But it came out of the fact that nobody's talking to children.
Right.
And asking them, what are your thoughts? What are you thinking? What are your fears?
Right.
So that we can properly address them, so that they don't have unusual fears, because at some point we do need to get back out into the world.
Right.
And we
Exactly.
cannot have a whole age group that says, I'm holding on to the doorpost because I'm not walking out of this house.
Right.
Because if we are not careful, we will set up a system where the children will not want to leave.
Yes, that's right. It's so true.
Yes. Because I mean, even as adults, we're like, okay, we got to be really careful when we go out. You know, if somebody coughs or somebody sneezes, you're looking at them like, wait, what? Do you have the virus?
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And so we have to be able to say to the children, what are your fears? And then teach them how to address those fears properly.
Right.
I mean, if our children said they were afraid of the boogeyman, we would handle it one way.
Right.
If our children were afraid when they heard gunshots, we would handle it another way. If our children were afraid when they heard the sirens for the tornadoes, we would handle it a different way.
Girl, you done touched every neighborhood. Sorry. You hit the sirens, the tornadoes, we all over. We done reached you, Tammy, in Toronto.
So we just want to make sure that we're letting our children know that, yes, there is death.
Yes.
And death is a part of life. There is illness, and illness is a part of life. But when you're responsible, and one of my youngest nephew, he really hit home when he talked about the fact that he was angry because the adults were being irresponsible.
Wow.
What did he say? What did he say?
He said that he felt like the coronavirus came back because the adults were being irresponsible. They were not wearing masks. They were not doing social distancing. They weren't washing their hands. And because of the adults, we now have a situation where he still can't go outside, is how he put it. Because he said he's not going outside because the coronavirus is killing people. And so you want to be sensitive to, you know, we don't want the children to overreact. But like you said, you cannot turn on the news without everybody overreacting, but not reacting properly.
Right.
Because while they're overreacting, they're still going out. They're still not wearing masks. They're still causing all kinds of chaos and confusion by not social distancing.
Right.
You know, I mean, our children are watching the adults, and they are not being very good examples.
Right. That's right. That's right. I mean, it's almost like when I'm hearing this, it's almost like if we would teach our children about predators, to be careful, not to talk to them, not to take candy from them, not to do, there are certain things you don't do. You know, you don't go out after dark, and there are certain things. And so we have to prepare them as well with this coronas, that you have to be wise. And I like that, because that takes the scary part out of it a little bit, you know, because it's like, this is what you do. There is a, for your reaction, there is a reaction. You know, is that right? Is that, that's that right? You know,
preparing
them. There is a, you know, we have, I love that, Tracy. That's good. We have to train them correctly. And I love your nephew's response to that, because he's absolutely right. That was a good observation. You see how much our kids watch us.
That it's a case study that they did, where they talked about how they were teaching children about germs, like Tammy was talking about earlier, and talking about this whole invisible challenge of dealing with germs. and how your body will be impacted by something that you cannot see. That's something that we can teach our parents to teach the children.
Yes.
Right.
And so we probably need to, instead of making the parents feel like you're not an educator, you can't do it, start teaching them little things that they can be successful at.
Right.
And then realize, oh, I got it. I can do this.
Right.
Because they really can.
Right.
Yeah. We're giving them too little credit. They really can.
Yeah.
I like that.
How you said about, you know, asking the kids, how are you feeling? And when you're asking the kids how they're feeling, they know that you are a person that they can trust and they can talk to. And that's what they need, is knowing that they have the support. They have somebody that when they are feeling scared or frightened or unsure, that they have somebody to talk to. And that's, we need to make sure we supports for them and let them know it's okay to have those feelings. And you can talk about them. I really like that too. That was really good.
Well, ladies, I love chatting with y'all. This is part one. You promised to come back and do a part two, because I think it's really going to ease the mind of people far more than you know. And so we have to chat again.
Thank you
I
for
love that some questions were answered for me as well. I mean, if I humble myself and say that it did. It really did. So just in closing, could you give me something, a closing remark that you can address parents and children with to encourage them for this time?
I think that this is a time for prayer. I think that we need to get back to having family prayer, to talking to our children about the power of God, about having our children, because I think that one of the things that has happened is that we've gotten into this entire we can fix this ourselves mentality around the world. And it is time for us to teach our children that there is someone who is greater than anyone in this world. And if you go to him sincerely and you ask him to help you, and if we just bombard heaven, a difference can be made. And I think that if we keep thinking, I could do this all by myself, we will continue to see people die. We will continue to see life as we know it change. And our children will not grow in the true power that they deserve to grow.
Right. That is so good, because this has affected everybody: the rich, the poor, the fat, the skinny, the black, the white, the brown, the red. Everybody, we're all on the same platform. You can't say, hey, I'm gonna pay you so I won't get this disease. I mean, it doesn't work now. You're right. The power of prayer and us having a relationship with God during this time is utmost important. Thank you for that, Tracy.
That's right.
Tammy? How can you top that, huh?
I was just going to say, thanks so much for putting me after Tracy, because I mean, who can follow that? Honestly, that is absolutely the best that we can do, is to pray. And I want, you know, the only other thing that I want to encourage parents and everyone is to look at this from a different light. I mean, there's sorrow, there's sadness, there's fear, there's death, there's concern. But, you know, I know people that they have their kids at home every day. And even though it's difficult, you have this opportunity, which a lot of people never have, to spend quality time with your kids. Be there. Be present with them. Don't worry so much about being their teacher and making sure they're learning. I mean, you want to do your job like that, but what you want to do is embrace this time. Be present with your children. And the best thing that you can do with your children is spend time with them. Go make some chocolate chip cookies, and they will learn by baking with you. Go play a board game, Monopoly. They're going to learn so many things through playing a board game. Go take them outside and kick a ball, or run around, or look
Yes.
at life outside, look at the bugs outside, or
Right.
we had a robin build a nest right on my deck this summer. It was the best for my little baby grandchildren. It was just the best learning. We watched her lay one egg one day, 2 days the next, another egg the next day, another 4 eggs, watched them hatching day after day, and finally flying off. Like,
Right.
life has so much to
Yes.
learn.
Yes.
God has provided so much outside in his wonderful creation that we can all still learn from.
Yeah.
And if you take the time to be present with your children, spend time with them, you're going to find joy in the journey. You really are going to find joy. It's just being with kids, even though it's difficult to be that parent and all these fears, just try to take, and it doesn't have to be all day, every single day. Even give yourself 15 minutes. I'm going to go outside with them. I'm going to play a game with them. We're going to do today. Just try to be present with them, read to them.
Yeah.
Give them some quality mommy time,
Yeah.
quality dad time, quality grandma time.
Right.
And pray. And pray.
Right. I love that. I love that. Joy in the journey. Enjoy the journey. And I think, I always like to say, don't waste the trial. We're going through a trial right now. And so let's learn.
There's a silver lining.
Yes, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Hey, I love you ladies. You were fantastic. I have some other topics because I think y'all can tap into on some stuff. I want to talk about racism in the schools. Are you willing to come back?
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah.
I am. Yes. I showed you my book I was reading. And see my book I'm reading. I'm trying to educate my own person, my white privileged person. I'm reading this book here.
She has always been a ham, even in college.
I'm still here. Black Dignity in a World Made for Whiteness by Austin Channing Brown, and it's very good.
That's a good book, actually. Love you, Tammy. I love you, Tracy. Give me a thumbs up, ladies. And we have to do this again. Give me a thumbs up and a high five.
Oh, yes.
Oh, come on, get in here. Love you guys. Love you. Wait, I got to take a picture. Stay here. Stay. Don't go anywhere. I love you guys so much. Thank you. I've learned so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Enjoyed being with you. Nice meeting you, Tracy. That was really
It was good to meet you.
You Georgians enjoy that nice weather down there.
Oh, we will. Yeah. We'll enjoy the heat.
It's been pretty hot up here, though, too. It's been hot up here, so.
Has it been?
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah, very hot.
Love you, ladies, and you are back here anytime to this panel. Thank you so much.
Okay. Take care now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.